My boyfriend cheated on me while I cared for him when he had terminal cancer. I think the title is a trigger warning in itself, to be honest. So if this is going to trigger you or upset you in any way, I think maybe you should pass this one, and I would not be offended or upset by it. Take care of yourself.
Not only did he, but the girl he cheated on me with also left him before he and he went to another girl and was taking advantage of her when he... Spoiler alert, this story includes...
We're 15 seconds in, and so much just happened there. Definitely a trigger warning.
This story includes the psych ward for him giving me money to get him out of the psych ward, multiple women over the course of a relationship he cheated on me with. Mind you, most of them I didn't know about until the end. And also me dealing with my very first narcissist, truly. We had a mutual friend who was a mental health professional, and she, of course, said she didn't diagnose him, but she truly felt that he had a histrionic personality disorder. So, if you'd like to hear some of these crazy shenanigans, listen at your own caution, okay? There will also be some trauma moments, some trigger warnings. I will warn you of those that include everything you can imagine. If you missed my other post, I shared that my on and off boyfriend of like 2.5 years cheated on me one final time in his final months as he had terminal cancer. Now, to be clear, this was a tumultuous relationship, but I have some stories, okay? So I'm just gonna share, maybe I'll just reply to a couple comments and share some stories. I'll be honest, I would be super concerned about giving identifiable details, but he didn't even speak to his family because he was honestly a terrible person. So it's totally fine. I'm happy to tell these stories, and I will really hope and wish that I wind up on the FYP of some of the girls that I warned about him that still ended up dealing with him, and then he ended up cheating on them too. So before I hop into the rest of these stories,
obviously this is just coming across very cold. I wasn't involved in the situation, so I have no idea, but I'm like, I don't know how to feel. This feels very uncomfortable.
There's a couple things that you should know. I was in my mid-20s, okay? He was about 12 years older than me, I want to say. I was like 27 and he was like 39 when we met.
Older.
Turning 40. And basically he told me he worked in sales, and he told me he owned his own company, okay? Me being a 27-year-old, I'm not going to ask questions. All I knew is he worked from home, and I went to my little job, and I would hang out with him, and I never asked questions because why would I ask what some businessman's job is other than he owns a company and he has sales? So I started to get suspicious when I started looking on his like LinkedIn. I couldn't find a LinkedIn of this, and I just tried to put it out of my mind. I found out when I was already deep in it, his sales business was going to hotels and stealing bottles of the individual amenities, and he would sell it on eBay. Guys, I'm not kidding, and mind you, he did this for like literally a decade.
What? Like the little shampoo and soap bottles and all that? Who's going to eBay for those? Go to Dollarama.
I mean, I gotta give it to him with that one. That is creative, innovative, and honestly super scammy, but like he didn't have a real job. But also because he didn't have a real job, he didn't have health insurance. So,
I mean, if he was making sales, I guess people were buying it.
Later on when he gets sick, that poses a problem. Anyway, that's the background. That's all I'm going to share for now because I'm going to break this up in just random stories from the beginning of our relationship to the ultimate. And the first story that I will start with in the next part is the very first time he cheated on me and how I didn't find out about it until he was about to. Thank you. I love you. Bye. Okay, wait, one more thing I have to share about this job. So, you guys, he would literally go on business trips. That's why I thought this was a legitimate job until I found out what he was actually doing. He would go on business trips, and they'd be like random places like Indianapolis, like Milwaukee, and I'd be like, what is he doing there? He was going to hotels where he would like pay employees like a little bit of money so that they would just give him the stuff. That's what I found out later. He was physically paying off employees like $100 to get like a couple grand worth of little mini shampoos and stuff. How embarrassante. Okay. Now go to part 2.
So his business trips were like, oh, I have to get inventory for my business. I don't know how he's making that money back. That's wild to me, but not the point of the story.
Now, this is the very first story in the very first month of our relationship where he cheated on me, and I had no idea until a couple years later, right before So, I meet him around Memorial Day weekend. I had to leave town. By the time I got back, we only had time for like a couple of dates based on my schedule and his. Now I've come to find out it's because he was balancing me with some other girls, which is fine. We were in the beginning stages. At this point, we had 3 dates, and he had basically said to me, like, he didn't ask me to be his girlfriend, but he was like, I really like you, and I'm only seeing you. And I was like, okay, cool. So I go on vacation to Mexico, Cancun, Mexico. It's my best friend's wedding. I'm going to be in her wedding. And I'm there, and like me being... he had an Android, and I paid for the text plan, even though the hotel was going to have Wi-Fi, because I needed to be able to be in contact with him. Okay. So it was like the first night. I got there early, before my mom did, who I was sharing the room with. And I remember getting a text at like, I don't know, 4 a.m. or something. And it was from him, and it was his hand covered in God knows what turned out to be blood. Had a huge cut. His bone was sticking out.
Ew.
Okay. He had this garden unit apartment on LaSalle, okay, here in Chicago. And there was always like something going on there, okay? Like,
if I saw that picture, I would have fainted in a second, probably half a second.
if you know, you know. If you live in Chicago, there's just kind of random stuff. So he would always tell me stories about like people coming up to his porch. So he sends me this elaborate text telling me that someone tried to break into his home. They tried to jump his wrought iron fence in his garden unit apartment, and he fought them off. And not only that, there was a couple walking down the street in front of his apartment, and he tried to attack them, and he saved them. He beat this guy up, and he took him down. And on the way, this guy had a knife, and he cut his hand open.
Oh. Well, by her expression, I'm assuming this is a lie, so I might be reacting to a fake story.
Me, I'm like, oh my God, are you okay? He's sending me pictures from urgent care. The hand looks... okay, so bad. I get back from vacation. We end up going exclusive literally in July, okay? Like a week later. Fast forward like 2.5 years. It's his benefit because he had no health insurance. And at that point, he was waiting tables on the side because his little sales business wasn't going well anymore because he couldn't do his fake business trips because he had cancer and he was, you know... So
no matter what this man did, I don't know him, he could have been a terrible person. I do think it's sad that he got ill and lost his life.
The restaurant he worked at did this fundraiser, okay, here in Chicago. And I'm there, and he's, you know, still alive at this point. And I think he forgot that we had like already began like being... like he had already told me that it was just me. And he's like introducing me to people. And he introduces me to this girl. We're going to call her Joanne. Okay. He introduces me to Joanne. And he's like, oh my God, do you remember when it was like right before we started dating? And I was on a date and I cut my hand because somebody was coming up to my fence in my apartment when I was getting home. I was like, what? And this girl's staring at me, and I'm just like,
So you didn't know he was on a date during that time?
Mind you, at this point of the benefit, we were like not really together anymore. This was the last couple of weeks before I decided I was fully done because his little situation had already started. Okay, his little cheating situation had already started, but I went to this benefit because I was trying to be cool. So, and I'm like, what? And then I realized, I'm like, wait, what? He goes, yeah, this is who I was on the date with, and I was, you know, coming back to my apartment. I know, Rudy. Piece that together really quick. He was bringing a girl back to his apartment when some random person did try to rob him, getting into his gate.
So that story was true. I honestly thought the hand story was going to be completely fake. I was like, oh, this guy's just a pathological liar. No, I guess that really happened. That's crazy.
And the person had a knife. He had a girl. He was bringing her back to apartment when he told me that he wasn't seeing anybody else. And I'm on vacation and he has the audacity. This girl's probably with him in the ER. I didn't ask this at the benefit. I should have. He has the audacity to send me pictures of his hand ripped up when he was bringing a girl to his home, and he told me he wasn't seeing anybody else.
They weren't technically official yet, but he did tell her he's not seeing other people, so he was wrong in that part. He should have just been honest and been like, I'm still dating other people, by the way. We're not exclusive. I'm dating while you're on vacation. Before we get into the not so funny parts of the story, I think we need a sip of water. Take off my little bow. I think you need a sip of water too. You probably haven't even had a sip today. Cheers. Hope you're having a good day. Hope your day is better than every one of my videos. Because all these stories are just, they're not happy.
So he gets a DM from a woman that he dated when he lived in DC. He had a storied childhood and past. He was allegedly unhoused. Allegedly his family abused him. Allegedly didn't talk to his family. And allegedly as a teenager, he lived in a shelter because he was unhoused. And this was somebody he dated when he was a teenager. And she DM'd him and was like, I'm going to be in town. And he told me that she was staying at such and such hotel, et cetera, et cetera. And I was just like, cool, like have fun, whatever. And it didn't really bother me because, I don't know, it had been so long and I thought he's being honest with me, whatever. So it's like Saturday night. And he tells me that they're going to the Green Mill. Okay. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I don't know exactly what happened, but something she said must have not been something he was like, how do I put this? He was very easily triggered by things that like made him, like if you didn't agree with him on something, he would intentionally poke you to like make you mad or to not have an enjoyable evening. So I don't know exactly what happened, but all I know is I ended up getting screenshots of his like camera footage and her leaving with her luggage at like 3 a.m. And I was like, what is going on here? And I don't know if he forgot to tell me I don't know if he forgot that I didn't know she was staying there. But he starts messaging me that he got into a fight with her and he kicked her out of his apartment. And I was like, why does she have a bag?
Oh, because she was visiting and probably asked him to stay with him. That makes sense.
And then he got mad at me and said I was accusing him of things. I was like, she has luggage. She stayed at his apartment Friday night, was gonna stay there Saturday, and they got into an argument. He claimed up and down nothing ever happened. We didn't talk for like 2 weeks. It was a whole thing. Never really found out what happened there. But he had another girl in his apartment. And at this point, I'm 6 months in and I'm Delulu living life.
She's getting a lot of enjoyment telling this story. I honestly don't know how to feel about it. I just feel like uncomfortable, but it's not, I didn't live through it.
Okay, it's been 2 weeks. How did I get pulled back into this situation? Well, I'll tell you. He had an elderly dog that I loved so much. Okay, he was probably like 12, 13 years old. I don't know. It was like a little poodle.
We love dogs.
Honestly, that should have been like a red flag. If you have a poodle, I'm sorry. But if you're a man with a poodle and you're like 40, you don't need a poodle. Okay, so anyway, I love this dog. I get a scream crying call at 7 a.m. on like a Sunday morning. And I'm like, what is going on? Okay. What is happening? What's going on here? Come over right now.
Oh, the dog.
I almost said the dog's name. I could say the dog's name. He's like, Cosmo's having a seizure. No. So me, I'm in my pajamas. I get in an Uber. I run over there and he's sitting with the dog on the ground and he's crying and he's crying. The dog's fine at this point, but he was so shook up over this dog having a seizure. It's fall by this point. I'm like, why are you dressed up? It's like 7 in the morning. It's early, okay?
Oh.
It was as I was processing that the dog was okay, I was like,
oh, the dog's okay. Ma'am, I'm so sorry. I'm so happy you clarified because I know that's not really the point of the story, but I'm glad the poodle was okay.
He still had a jacket on. He had his nice jeans on. He had a button up. He had the smell
Oh,
of the
he just got
cologne from
home.
yesterday. Okay, you know what I'm saying? A little alcohol smell. And as soon as he realized that I saw what was happening, I was like, are you just getting home? Then the fake tears started. The fake tears. Okay. He was already crying over the dog, but then it really got like turned on waterworks. I decided to get a drink, and I met this girl named, what should I call her? We'll call her Hona. You know who you are. If you see this, Hona, it's you. So, imagine the name that rhymes with Hona, and that's allegedly this person's name. Okay.
This girl has the most savage approach to this entire situation.
So anyway, Hona. Okay, so he goes to a bar the night before, allegedly. I'm gonna call BS on it, and I'm pretty sure he probably met her on an app and met up with her for a date. But he claims he decided to go for a drink because he was bored on Saturday night. And he claims that this girl, he just had too many drinks with, and he went up to her hotel, and she had just gotten in town for a business trip a day early. And she was staying at the Trump Hotel. And look, she even gave me her key. And I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. I'm not going to go back. Look, this is the Trump Hotel key. And he gives me this key card.
Why are you pretending like giving me the key back is some sort of like heroic act?
And he's like, look, take it. I'm not going to go back. Take it from me, just so you know. I'm sorry. I can't believe I did this. And he's going on and on crying. And I just can't believe I did this to you. It's because you weren't talking to me and you hurt my feelings because blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm thinking, I hurt your feelings. Okay. And then he's crying. And then I feel bad because, again, I'm dumb. And at this point, I was fully love bombed by this man. And I was like, oh my God, the dog. Oh. And that was how he cheated on me. For the first time.
Girl, technically it's not the first time if we're being technical, but I get it. A lot of us have been there where you're like, I had every opportunity to leave at that time and I stayed and I shouldn't have. And then I feel really dumb later on, but we gotta learn our own lessons, you know? That's what life's all about.
As a reminder, these stories are out of order and I'm just sharing some things that happened over the course of our 2.5-year relationship. Let's go. This is what happened. This is how we stopped talking. I will be fully transparent with you. We were not speaking by the time he actually passed away, so I have some unhealed trauma that I go to therapy for. You know, maybe this is a coping mechanism for me sharing all of this, but basically we stopped speaking because, you know, he got diagnosed in January. This is the timeline, okay? We had already been not speaking when he got diagnosed. And I will maybe later share the text with you that he sent me when he found out he had cancer. But I was at work in January. I get this text, okay? I find out. And things kind of rekindle from there. By the time February happens, there's a benefit that's happening to raise money because he has no insurance coverage. So, of course, all the, you know, girls he's had on the side come out of the woodwork for this event because I'm not going to lie to you, this man was very charismatic. He was...
I feel like naturally, too, no matter what they did, you would still have a love and care for that person in a sense when you find out traumatic news like that. So that's totally understandable.
What I would say conventionally attractive. And he was a narcissist and was able to pull people in. He had so much charisma. And this girl that I mentioned in the last video, who he had cheated on me with a couple years prior, well, about 1.5 years prior at this point, basically she came for this and there was like a bunch of friends in town and people were stopping by at his house. But mind you, at this point, we are so thick into me caring for him. I was at his house 7 days a week. I had stopped going to the gym. I was basically going to work. I was coming home on my lunch break from the Loop. Okay, so I worked in the Merchandise Mart. I would hop on the Red Line. Aww. I would come to his house on my hour lunch break. I'd give him his meds because he could barely move from the bed half the time. And then I would get back on the train and go back to the Merchandise Mart and work. So this girl comes to town, and basically, amongst other people, they came in town for this event, and people were coming in and out of the house, but I was staying there. I was essentially living there at this point. And mind you, this is on him. I want to be clear. I don't blame it on this girl, but the girl was also Delulu, and I'm sure he was telling her things too. So it's not her fault, but honestly, she was older than me and she should have probably known better. But my excuse is I was like, at this point I was almost 30. I was like 28 and a half.
How awkward that you just have to be around these other women now too. And like you're all each other's other women because you don't know what he's telling everyone.
I don't even know. This is getting irrelevant. But she comes over and I could tell she was trying to stay. Like maybe 8 people had been to the house visiting the whole night. And she was literally trying to stay. Like she was trying to stay the whole night. She thought I was going to leave. And eventually I just decided I was going to go to bed. And I let him stay in the living room. And she ended up leaving shortly after that. And he came to bed pouting, saying that she wasn't going to stay the night, but I should have given them alone time. I was like, alone time? You barely can be alone right now. I'm setting alarms for your medicine. And you want me to kick me out because this girl's here who you cheated on me with? No. This is in February. His birthday was in March. Okay, so the event happens and then March happens. And it is his birthday day. And at this point, he's dealing with a lot of depression. I mean, fair enough. He had cancer. But that morning, I don't know what it was, but something inside of me twisted. And I was like, I never want to see this poor, lost, disgusting soul again. And I looked him in the face and I said, you're going to regret this and you're going to die without any true love in your life. I kissed him on the forehead because he was sitting on the couch. I kissed him on the forehead. I took my stuff and I left. And let me tell you what, that was the last time I saw that man. But it was not the last time I would hear from him, where he would eventually give me a cash bonus because he ran to that girl in another state and I ended up getting a little moolah.
This could honestly be a movie plot. Someone should be on TikTok making this a movie. I mean, she's practically written the entire script out.
Okay, so we left off in the last part with the other lady. Okay, how did he get with her after I left him? So basically, he had no caretaker at this point. I mean, he had his friends who were kind of maybe carting him to appointments. But I will tell you, even his friends were nice to me until the end because they knew that I was actually there taking care of him. Even when he was talking bad about me, even when he would turn into one of his rage fits, I would be in the ER with him until 6 a.m. when I had to get ready for work and leave. I was with this man doing everything I could. So when I left, of course, this girl who was like a little leech, which again, it's his fault, but she knew better. And she knew as like a 45-year-old woman that she was reeking of desperation. Now I was reeking of desperation too, but this woman lived in another state. Okay. So mind you, if you've ever had a serious illness, cancer or not, even just a regular doctor, sometimes getting on lists for specialists takes a while. So we had done so much work because he had no insurance to convince doctors. I had friends with a lot of money who made a lot of calls for me to get him into different cancer treatment programs here, doctors that were willing to take him on pro bono or take him on with no insurance, which is a big deal. Some doctors will not take you on for cash pay. And basically, after he lost his caretaker, this woman invited to come live with him. This woman invited him to come live with her in New York City. Yeah. Okay, so he gets there, and I'm going to tell you what.
So he moved?
Things turned sour relatively quickly. I'm not recalling the exact timeline, I'll be honest, because I tried to find the emails of when this happened, but I feel like he actually emailed my work email at that time, and I do not work at that company anymore. So unfortunately, I could not pull them up to verify the timeline. But essentially, the short story of it all is he gets to New York. Things are great for the first couple of weeks. I think she tried setting him up with some doctors. I don't even know much about that part of the story, so I'm not going to dive into that. But all I know is basically one day, I believe Hona went to work. That's what we're calling her. Remember, her name's Hona. She went to work or something of that nature. I don't know if it was a business trip, a day trip, if it was just the office. And I think he went to a baseball game alone. And I don't know if he was sending her chaotic texts. I don't exactly know what happened. But he had kind of taken a turn, and she had given the doorman the instruction to not let this man into the apartment. And this is what I was told by him, by the way. So this is all alleged. So Hona, if you see this, this is what he told me. And we were not in contact at this point, but basically he had done some crazy stuff and she got the police called on him and she got him committed to a psych ward, which was honestly where he belonged. Like, that's icon behavior. Actually, Hona, like, good job. So he's in the psych ward, and I don't know how long he'd been there, but he got like his little internet access that he could use minimally. And I get this email, and also with the email, I get this quick pay transaction that's like the most, I'm not even going to say the amount of money because it was a lot. I mean, I'm talking, I want to say it was almost $3,000. I can't even remember because it's been so long. I don't know exactly what he was thinking, but he basically emailed me and was like, I'm gifting you money because I will do anything for you to get me out of this psych ward.
Oh, so basically he's paying you off to try. He wants you to help. It's not a gift. He wants something in return.
I'm paying you money because I believe you can convince them to get me out of the psych ward. I don't know what he thought the money was going to do. I think it was like a bribe for me. I don't know what it was for. But he basically told me this unhinged story. It was very obvious that he was lying about a lot of it, but basically saying that she kicked him out and she lied and called the cops on him. And he was claiming that he couldn't get his cancer treatment because of this, which was not true. He couldn't get his treatment because he left his doctors, and I don't think it was set up in New York. But yeah, so he basically gave me like a few grand to get him out. And I contacted his friend, who I never heard back from. I never heard back from when he got back from New York. He never asked him for the money back. I literally did not hear from him again until about 2 months later when he sent me this crazy erratic text saying that he wanted his pictures back from his event and his dry cleaning that I had paid for. When, mind you, I was like, no, you're not getting that stuff back because you stole my shoes and my gold necklace. But yeah, so I got $3,000 out of it.
So you took the $3,000 and then did not get him out of the psych ward? I have so many mixed emotions about this entire thing. And I really hope you guys put your thoughts in the comments because I'm like, I don't know how to feel.
Thanks for the gift, I guess. R.I.P. Let's get back to Hona and how I found out that he was cheating on me for the very last time before he... Okay, so I've given you the timeline. He found out he had cancer in January. We had a benefit for his no insurance self in February. I left him permanently in March. He went to, in the beginning of April, the end of March, somewhere in there, he went to New York to visit Hona, the girl he cheated on me with a bunch of times, for like an extended vacation. And I was under the impression that he went there because he needed a caretaker. But this is what happened. So, before the benefit, after his diagnosis, I will just tell you, like, the man could barely walk half the time. He was in so much pain. At one point, after I left him, but just he was on so many different infusions and treatments. His bone literally shattered in his shoulder. Like, cancer is painful, and honestly, I mean, that sucks. But he was on so much medicine, morphine, and all this stuff that he couldn't even really, like, at first, when we first found this out, I was like his words for people, okay? Other than like his best friends who were calling and coming over, I was the one. We had a Caring Bridge that I would update on a regular basis to, if you don't know Caring Bridge is, just Google it, but just getting all the updates there. Actually have voice notes from him still of like what to put on the Caring Bridge, like if I'd be at work and couldn't go to a doctor's appointment. And essentially what happened when this started, people saw me tagged in the Facebook thing, so I would get messages from women, from friends, and one of the people that messaged me was Hona. And I had known about Hona already. You know, I don't think she knew about me the very first time he hooked up with her. Maybe she did. I really believe she thought he was single. But on the other side of things, I don't know what he told her. But at one point, she was made aware of me, okay? And at this point, she knew who I was. She knew I was also his caretaker. I don't know if she knew I was living with him. I don't think he told her that part. But she would message me. I still have all the messages. She would message me, do you need food? Like, she was messaging me in the way that she thought I was just his friend. Messaging me like, it was weird. And I'm like, do you know we're sleeping in the same bed together, right? Like, do you know this? Are you aware?
She probably wasn't aware. He probably was like, oh no, that's like my friend.
We're like siblings. That's my best girlfriend.
He probably lied.
So, anyway, basically I was like, I'm fabricating a relationship with her because, first of all, I need the investigative action here. I need to know what's happening. But two, like, I should have want to tell her what he did, and like, I'm going to warn her, okay? And, you know, we did text and whatever, and I started the benefit and things were fine. But all the while, I didn't know that since this happened, because he always loved the East Coast. Remember I told you he grew up in DC, and he always talked about the East Coast and how much he loved New York and DC, and just the East Coast was better. And he would always be like, I want to go to New York. I would love to live there. Like, it'd be so great. And essentially, he had been getting texts from her. He sent me screenshots later of this, of her being like, I want to marry you. It will give you health insurance. I'm in love with you.
Oh.
Let's get married. I'll get you through this. And then we'll live our life together. Like she was trying to convince him to marry her. And was basically professing her love on a regular basis. But the thing is, he was also participating in this. He was like, oh, this is a great idea, all this stuff.
I was also made aware later, one of the reasons she was allegedly trying to convince him to marry her was he was not transparent with her that there was no pathway to survival with this cancer, and was feeding her a fantasy that he could survive and be with her, aka lied to her to manipulate and get a new caretaker out of her.
Mind you, by March, I got sick of him and I left. And mind you, the second I did that was when he started planning his excursion, because I think he thought going to New York was probably not possible because of how sick he was. And once I left, he got super desperate and acted on the emotional affair that he was already having with her. But here's the best part, okay? And I'm going to leave this for the next part, part 9, on how he allegedly, okay? Mom, if you're watching this, stop watching right now. You don't want to hear this next part, okay? You just don't. I'm giving you 5 seconds to leave this video. Leave this video. You will not want to hear it.
What?
Okay, part 9, I'm going to talk about how he allegedly had STDs and knew this and was not telling women about it. Okay, so, oh, and by the way, I told Hona this, and she still let him come to New York.
This entire thing is insane. Honestly, it's coming across very insensitive on her part. Obviously, I do think that she loved this man very much because she kept taking care of him even after the things he did. And I think this is a coping mechanism. Like she said, she's in therapy for all of this. So I'm trying not to judge her approach to this. It's just very uncomfortable from the outside watching. But let me know what your opinion on this is. And we have part 2 coming because there's a lot involved here. Stay classy out there, stay sassy, and I'll see you tomorrow.